established and created through this one single pattern. Now, there are a lot of other things that happen coming to this pattern that we haven't talked about, and that you can pick up in the books if you read them. But I just want to talk about this one pattern for a little bit. In sacred geometry, a straight line is considered male. There's total consensus in the world on this from all people that I'm aware of that are studying in sacred geometry. But any curved line that's not straight, no matter what the curve is, it's female. I mean, you can just look at male and female bodies and see that the male body is straighter and the female body is curvier. But at any rate, in sacred geometry, this has been established. So this image that you're looking up here is all female. There's no male in here. But there's 13 ways that the male can be superimposed over the female. 13 different, entirely unique ways, and each one produces this vast system of knowledge that just keeps expanding out further and further. I mean, you could spend half your life studying each one of these systems of knowledge and never come to the end because it's so complex and there's so much involved in it. In the Flower of Life books, I only show 4 of the systems because it's just too much to go on to all of it. But by looking at 4 systems, you can definitely understand. Tonight, we're only going to look at 1 because we'd be here the rest of the night just doing this. The simplest, most obvious way to link male straight lines over the female curved lines is simply by connecting all the centers together, the centers of these circles. In other words, to connect this center to that center, you draw a straight line through there. But this center here would be another line. This center would run that way, up that way. This one would run from here over to there. And you just do all possibilities of every possible way that straight lines can move over there, and you get this. And if you could focus it a little bit. And this is called Metatron's cube. This is what was on the Shinto's priest, on the breastplate of the Shinto's priest, where the guy just practically fell out of his chair when I showed him this, because to them it was one of the most sacred images in existence. And so you could just say, well, so what? What is it? It's just a bunch of lines, I mean, it doesn't mean anything, does it? Well, it really does. In just regular geometry, not even sacred geometries, but in regular geometry, there are a lot of polyhedron, three-dimensional shapes that connect back into themselves. And there are 5 of them that are unique. They're completely unique. There are no others like them. And they're called the Platonic solids. It was after Plato in the Grecian times when he was talking about the Platonic solids, though he was not the first. And in fact, they have traced the Platonic solids back in humanity scientifically 20,000 years BC, where they have found people alive somewhere that have carved three-dimensional, the 5 Platonic solids three-dimensionally that have been dated back to 20,000 BC. So it's been around a while, at least. But inside of here are those 5 Platonic solids. You can't see them. It takes time. You've got to figure it out. But what you do is you keep certain lines and you erase other lines to get to them. For example, if I was to only keep these lines and erase all the other ones, and these little white lines are the ones that are on the back side of this three-dimensional form, and the heavy ones are on the front side of it, you get something called the icosahedron, which is this. And that, of course, goes back around. It's 20 triangles linked. What makes these this one, the icosahedron, and the other 4 unique is that they have these characteristics. All the edges of this shape are all the same, all over. They're all the same length. All of the faces are the same. They're equilateral triangles. All of the angles inside are exactly the same. And this shape will fit inside of a perfect sphere where all the extending points out of here will lie on the surface of the sphere. Believe me, they have taken computers and had these computers run day and night for months and months and months trying to find a sixth Platonic solid. No one's ever found one. These are all 5 of them. There's the tetrahedron, a cube, octahedron, the icosahedron we just looked at, the pentagonal dodecahedron, and the sphere, of course, which is not one of the Platonic solids, but it's where they came from. The sphere is what contains them, because all the points of these things are sitting on the surface of this sphere invisibly. So the female, which is pure female, gave birth to these 5 different male forms. They're male because they have nothing but straight lines in them. Understand? So what are the Platonic solids? Well, any engineer that goes to college has to learn about these, because they are the forms that determine structure. Like if you're building a bridge or anything else like that, you have to know stress and everything else like that. And they're all based back under these 5 shapes. Structure is the primary key of them. For example, all crystals known to man, which there are a little slightly more than 100,000 of them, like quartz or emerald or different kinds of crystals, all have the atoms inside of them arranged in different geometrical patterns that are all functions of these 5 Platonic solids, period, in the end. No matter what the crystal is, it came from one of those 5 shapes. And viruses, all viruses are polyhedron. They're just shapes like this. That's all they are. And all viruses in existence came from one of these 5 shapes, which, by the way, is the secret on how you can cure all viruses. We've already done it. They just won't let us talk about it. Somebody will do it. Once you figure that out, it's not too far behind. You can eliminate any virus by knowing how this works. Everything in our reality, in fact, if you want to just jump to the very end period of the whole bottom line of the whole thing, the periodic table of elements, all the elements of everything from hydrogen to helium to etc. all the way through, and silver, gold. All the way that the electrons are arranged around the atoms and the way that they are configured inside of there are all a function of one form, which is the cube. That's been established scientifically. Now, they didn't understand it when they did it. All they knew was that that one form determines everything. And so, in other words, the very fabric of all, which is just atomic levels of everything inside of our reality, from every level conceivable on an atomic level, is a function of one of the Platonic solids. You can go deeper and deeper and deeper into this, and the more you study it, the more outrageous it is, the more you begin to realize that everything is a function. But this is just the structural pattern. They're important to understand in many different disciplines, but they're also important to understand if you're trying to figure out why you're here and what this reality is all about. And yet, this is only one system out of 13. So there are 12 more extraordinary systems of knowledge, not based on this, that go into other levels of our existence. There's even a system of knowledge that determines consciousness itself. When consciousness, the very levels of where consciousness is harmonic and is able to interpret the one reality that exists. And there is only one reality. There just is whatever there is. But there are many, many, many ways, at least 100,000 ways.